Good evening, and we are here today with the Georgia A panel, and we are here to discuss the most dominant athlete at Georgia Southern University. Let me preface this by saying the most dominant athlete within their sport. This is based off what have they done this past year, and this is not to say that any athlete is better than any other athlete, because you can definitely not say a basketball player is better than a football player, but we're just going off who's more dominant in their sport. To start off, we would like to introduce our panel today. We'll start with you.
Hi, I'm Katie Tolbert, and I'm the softball reporter.
Hi, I'm Will Chaney, and I'm the Georgia Sports Chief.
Colin Ritzik, men's basketball and baseball beat writer.
I'm Shaquem Holloway, and I'm the sports editor.
I'm Hayden Boudreaux, and I'm the softball reporter.
Trevor McNavoe, baseball reporter.
I'm Emily Arnold, and I'm the golf reporter.
All right, now we are going to get started with our bios, who you are voting for as the top five, as we vote for our top five most dominant athletes at Georgia Southern. Katie, we're going to start with you.
Well, I chose Jamie Durack. She's an outside hitter for the volleyball team. This year, she's going to be a senior, but we're covering her junior year. She has been the offensive player of the month. She was the offensive player for 2 weeks, all conference, and she was the most outstanding player in the SoCon championship, which they won. She's just all around a really strong player in every single area of the game, and that's why I chose her, because she wasn't dominant in one area. She was dominant hitting, digging, assisting, blocking, everything.
Now to your hitting, her hitting percentage was 19.2%, which was about half of Kim Coley, who was the leader. How do you respond to her hitting this year? Because she was definitely dominant in everything else. She was second in the conference in kills, and I think she's definitely worthy of being in the top five. But how do you think everything else holds up her hitting
That was
percentage?
definitely something that I saw, because her errors were a little on the high side. But, I mean, it should be noted that she had 434 kills. Like I said, to point that in other areas, you don't see a hitter digging the ball 400 times, getting 36 total blocks. Like, you just don't see a hitter like that being able to get on the floor and get those balls when they need to be. Like, it's just, that doesn't happen. And Kim Coley is a great hitter. I looked at her, but when you look at all the other areas, just well-rounded, she's just not there.
Agreed.
Let's move on. Chaney?
Well, my choice is a relative new face to Georgia Southern University. It's junior right fielder Aaron Mizell. He's a recent JUCO transfer from Gordon State College up in northwest Georgia. He really brings a dynamic that the Georgia Southern baseball team hasn't seen in a number of years. He's a five-tool player. He can do it all. And really, he's not big. He's 5'10", 160 pounds, and he really brings a lot in a small package. And in the short season, he really has risen to the top as the most versatile and really the largest cog in Ronnie Hennon's offense.
I want to stop you right there. He is the leading home run hitter for Georgia Southern, correct?
Yes.
That's true. But he started he had 9 home runs in the first 20 games? Okay, but what has he done for them lately? That's my issue with him. Baseball is a hot, cold sport, man. You can get hot and you can have that streak and you can be amazing, and then you can get cold. You can be Sammy Sosa with the cork back. So it's up and down. Like he's got those 9 home runs, and his hitting percentage started to tail off a little bit. Those home runs aren't coming in as often. Like, how would you like?
I see what you're saying, and really, the pace he began, there's no way anybody that was human could really keep up that pace. Yeah, his numbers are tailed off. He's still hitting 343, and even with his home run numbers tailing off, he has a homer per 12 at bats, which, in the college game today is, you don't see it. I mean, this isn't 4 or 5 years ago when they had the Juice, BSR bats, and you could take a pitch right over your hands and have it leave the ballpark. And I think what he brings to the table, besides maybe the whole team struggling offensively, really, but the runs he saves on defense, the ground he covers in right field is second to none. His base running is as good as it gets in SoCon.
True. True. Any more objections? All right, let's go with Colin.
For me, since we are talking about the most dominant athlete in their sport, there's no question it needs to be Jelani Hewitt. Jelani, anybody who's watched the basketball team this past year can agree that there wasn't much of a post presence. There was never anybody that took over a game down low. Marvin Bainham, he's a good player. He's a good defender. He's a good rebounder. But he doesn't do much for the Eagles on offense. Jelani Hewitt carried this team on offense. In 19 games, he scored over 20 points. He scored double digits in every game but 3 of the 34 games this season for Georgia Southern. He carried this team from day one, and he carried them through their semifinal run in the SoCon playoffs. To me, since we are talking about the most dominant athlete in their sport, the Georgia Southern basketball team was 15-19 in the season, and I don't think there's any chance they're close to that record if Jelani Hewitt does not play for them like he played this year.
Any objections to Jelani?
I just have something I want to bring up. I know we're talking about dominant in the sport, but it's hard for me to look at that record and want to defend like anyone as saying that they're the most dominant over someone else. What is your argument for saying that if he really is that dominant, why is their record that?
Because there's 5 men on the floor at any time.
Yeah, but like
One
you
player
said,
one player can't make up for the entire team. Jelani is the leading scorer in the SoCon. He's the second leading free throw shooter in the SoCon. He set records this year. I understand what you're saying. A losing record, it's hard to defend somebody on a losing team. But looking at their record, if Jelani wasn't there, we're looking at hopefully, maybe even a 10-win team. I mean, they went from a 15-19 team. If Jelani's not there, I think that they're a 10-win team.
Any objections? Okay. Well, I guess it's my turn. Dominant athlete, I believe I have the best athlete and the most dominant, obviously. Jerick McKinnon, football, quarterback, running back. I'm not going to state his stats for you. You know who he is. Just one thing. He led us to he had the game-winning touchdown against Florida, and I'm done.
All right.
Really?
Well, then, if that's your argument, where was he for the rest of the game? I mean, he had good stats. He had, what was it, 120 yards?
100 on less than 10 carries.
But it seemed to me that he had the big run in the third quarter, midway through the third quarter, and he had the big touchdown. But I didn't see much out of him for the rest of the game.
Yeah, the guy's injured because he's their Trojan horse. He's everything. He's that offense. Kevin Ellison is developing. He's a good quarterback. He'll get better. But Jerick McKinnon was that offense this last season, and he was banged up, injured. Coach pulled him. He got injured in that game even in the third quarter. He got injured in that game, and he came back in the fourth quarter and got that touchdown. 26-20. History was made.
I mean, there really is no denying that Jerick McKinnon is probably one of the most versatile athletes to ever come through Georgia Southern.
True.
But I love your charisma, but you definitely could have put up a better argument for him when he got the touchdown to clean up the mess after 3.5 quarters in Gainesville. I mean, he's a great player. He really is. He started defensive back, quarterback, and he even filled in at slot back and A back this year while starting the season as a starting quarterback. I mean, what else can you say?
Thank you. Thank you. Any objections?
I just want to ask, I mean, definitely very impressive. 122 yards a game, the average.
Yeah.
Is an impressive statistic.
Yes.
Ellison averaged 149. You spoke a little bit to Ellison. Do you think they play off of each other? You said Ellison's a rising star, but he did have more total offense than McKinnon.
Well, he's a quarterback. He throws the ball. So, although they don't throw much, but he throws. So, he passes and he gets those passing yards, and those stats are different. So, I don't put any much credit to those stats as far as total yards are concerned. Jerick McKinnon he frees up space for the quarterback to throw because his presence as the running back, that running game, that triple option that Jeff Monken ran so notoriously. he allowed for Kevin Ellison to get some of those passing yards and also some of those rushing because of the way the triple option is set up.
All right.
Okay. Anybody else? Aiden, your turn.
All right. I'm arguing for the real most dominant athlete, Eagle softball pitcher Sarah Purvis. I think the only appropriate way to judge the dominance in the sport is your competition, how well you can show up game to game and play. We're talking about pitcher of the week every week in the Southern Conference. She leads 5 statistical categories in pitching. This season, she's pitched not only a no-hitter, also a perfect game. You can't argue with that.
Or can you? Because when it comes to stiffer competition, she plays those Tennessees, those UGAs. She has a losing record. She loses. It's mostly because of her pitching that they lose. The game against Tennessee, they lost 1-0. Home run given up, Sarah Purvis. Now, I'm not saying she's not great. She's great, awesome. Love Sarah Purvis. But when it comes to those big games, she's LeBron in 2007. So,
What I will say to that is it's hard to say, one loss or you lost because of the pitching. I think this team as a whole, because really she could fill that entire wall with her accolades. But what it does to a team is they get comfortable. They're used to the no-nos and the perfect games when she's going up there half her starts in the season and throwing up zeros. Her wins and losses, throw them out the window, in my opinion. You look at her ERA, it's up a little bit from last year. It's about 150. They have played some stiff competition, but I really don't have a valid argument why she shouldn't be in the consideration anymore.
Also, to speak to that, I know you're big on McKinnon's touchdown against Florida because it was a big game. Florida's a good team. But I want to ask you, you referenced that 1-0 loss. That was to the number 1 team in the country. And that home run you spoke of, that gave up the game. The person who hit that home run is the number 1 batter in the NCAA. So I think, yes, you have to look at the competition. But when you look at the competition, McKinnon was running touchdowns against a battered and bruised and demoralized University of Florida team. While Purvis was pitching against the best team in the country who has a legitimate shot at going all the way.
battered and bruised, true. But that defense is still big. Those guys on Georgia Southern's offensive line aren't as big. We've got barely 300 pounders.
I'm not arguing football. I'm just arguing the competition.
Okay.
I'm saying Florida was not the number 1 defense in the country.
I'll have some more stats for you later.
Okay. We'll get into it. All right.
Let's go, Trevor.
All right, well, I had senior goalkeeper Neil Bates. Bates won the starting goaling job from 3 other goalies this year. And as Kevin Kennedy, the head coach of the soccer team, said, as Neil Bates goes, the soccer team goes this year. A couple years ago, they didn't really have an identity on the back line, and he had to look forward to this redshirt senior netminder. So that's why I say he's the best athlete in his sport.
I will say that Neil Bates, that defense improved tremendously with Neil Bates. I agree with you as far as putting him in the top 5 athletes that Georgia Southern goes. Does anybody disagree?
I just want to iterate that I agree as well. I mean, you can look at their record from this season, but similar to Hewitt, I don't think they'd be where they were if they didn't have him in goal this year.
All right. Emily?
Okay. Well, I picked junior golfer Scott Wolfus, and I picked him because in the sport of golf, he is the reigning SoCon Golfer of the Year. So that tells you something. It could be from last year, a statistic from last year, but that means that he is someone who is dominant in this sport.
True.
In August, he was named to the top 50 players to watch by Golf World in the nation. He's had 5 top 10 finishes this year, including first place finish in the Schenkel Invitational here at Georgia Southern. If you don't know what the Schenkel Invitational is and how big it is, then you probably should, because it is one of the top golf tournaments in the nation, and that's coming from teams that come every year, they look forward to this tournament. They look forward to the field because it's one of the toughest in the country by anyone, and he won it. Okay, also the team won it, which is huge because out of 35 years that this tournament has been going on, Georgia Southern golf team has never won it before. So that tells you something about the dynamics of the entire golf team. And to say that Scott won first, that shows that he is dominant in this. Like, he won the first. So he was the third player from Georgia Southern to ever win the Schenkel Invitational. So that shows that he is a leader. He can lead his team to a victory. And he's been named SoCon Golfer of the Week 2 times, but I think what's really going for him is that Schenkel win.
I agree with you. The Schenkel win was huge, not only for Scott, but for the Georgia Southern team. But the question I would have to raise is, don't you think the play of Will Evans had a humongous amount to do with that Schenkel win and with the success of this team this year? Obviously, in addition to Scott. No disrespect to either one of them, but I think that since we are talking most dominant, Will Evans had almost as much to do with the success of the team this year as did Scott.
Before you answer that, I would like to interject and say I agree wholeheartedly with Colin. I feel like Scott got off to a really slow start. Well, not a really slow start, but a slow start to the golf season. Will Evans, however, he just right out of the gate, and he's kept it consistent this whole way through. And you can just answer that question.
Well, you also have to look at the game of golf because, like I was saying about baseball, it's a hot or cold thing. Golf can come up and bite you in the butt if you're not careful about it. It's one of those games that you can play amazing one week and then the next week, just because of many different variables, you can play awful the next week after playing like incredible the first week. So you have to look at. Sure, I agree. Will Evans has been a great player for the team this year, but I think that Scott with this has more recognition from nationally ranked, like national, like on recognition nationally. I think he has more than Will Evans, and that shows dominance in his sport nationally.
Let me ask you this very quick. I know in a debate like this, we like as we discussed before and went on camera, it's something you want to preface as just this season, and we can get caught up like in a senior Jared McKenna or Sarah Purvis that have been here and developed this huge body of work for 3 years, 4 years. I think it's something we don't need to get caught up in, and I think he has the national recognition the past couple of years, but I think as far as this season is concerned, I think Will Evans has been actually more valuable to that team.
I think that's all we're going to do for now as far as those athletes are concerned. We'll come right back and we'll vote. We'll discuss this and we'll vote on our top 5. We've tallied up everybody's top 5, and now you have to wait. The top 5 will be announced in the paper Thursday. Please check it out.